Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel, or should I really say, welcome back to the Football Philosophy channel. It's quite a while now since I did a show. Seems a long time since I first appeared on YouTube. I came out of the Molineux ground in March of 2019, having been beaten by Wolves. United were beaten by Wolves 2-1 in the FA Cup. And I bumped into Flex there outside the first time I met Flex, and I did an interview with Flex outside the ground. That's coming up to 2.5 years ago. Obviously, that was for the United stand. I didn't know what I was getting myself into at the time. I really didn't. Who could have imagined what's happened in the last 2.5 years? I'd never ever dreamt that. I don't think I even knew what YouTube was 2.5 years ago. I never ever dreamt that I would start my own YouTube channel. I didn't think, although you do get a little bit of stick, I didn't imagine for 1 minute the type of popularity really from so many different people giving me good messages, fond messages of how much they enjoy the shows and how much they enjoy me. Obviously there's a lot of people who don't like it, but the amount of people that have given me messages over the last couple of months, I've just not been doing it. I just became embroiled in it. I was doing a show every morning, or virtually every morning, sometimes 2 shows a day, and doing paperwork to catch up with what I was going to talk about. It became so time consuming, it was unbelievable. And basically I just needed to take a back seat for a while. I have been back on the United stand. Mark got in touch with me a month or so back, and I have been back on the United stand. Anybody who's not seen me doing the Football Philosophy channel, I have been on the United stand for the last month or so, doing shows, and also I did a fan cam after the Everton game, the friendly game. And Mark has asked me to up my output, if you like, for the United stand this season. So I'm probably going to be on a couple of shows a week, as well as doing something after each game or after most games. So I'm going to be on the United stand more. So I am going to still do the Football Philosophy channel, but not in such a big way. It was so time consuming. I just haven't got time to do so much stuff. What I am planning on doing is to make sure I do upload one show at least every time United play, whether it's before the game. Well, probably after each game, I'll talk about a game that's just been played, and I'll also look ahead to the next game. So I will plan to do at least one show between games, if you like, which will work out, during the season, to 2 shows a week, really. So that's what I'm planning on doing with the Football Philosophy channel. But I will be doing a little bit more on the United stand than I was doing before. What's happened? A lot has happened in that 2.5 years. Not just me starting my own YouTube channel, which absolutely stunned me that I did that. Really, who could have envisaged COVID all that time back when I met Flex 2.5 years ago? Flex, of course, has now left the United stand literally in the last few months and started doing his own thing, which seems a shame to me. It was Flex really that brought me into this industry, if you like. It is an industry. It's not really an industry for me. It was becoming that way, but it is an industry. Flex brought me into it by meeting him that day. It's a shame that he's left. I enjoyed doing my shows with Flex. I enjoyed doing my fan cams with Flex. Top guy, really nice fella, and I'm sorry to see that he's left and that I won't be doing stuff with him now. I am going to stick with the United stand and be doing stuff with Mark. I've enjoyed doing the shows with Mark. There's some great lads on the United stand, and they are enjoyable, and you do get a lot of good feedback. So we'll be doing those probably Thursday nights and Sunday nights. When I don't know what Mark's plans are if United play on a Sunday, whether we'll be doing Monday and Thursday, that remains to be seen, but I imagine it would be like that. What else have I missed? I've missed the whole of the Euros. Obviously, I'd love to have done some shows during the Euros. I enjoyed the Euros. I watched most games. Really did watch most games, not just the England games. It was a fantastic tournament. England did better than I expected, to be honest. I wasn't happy with Southgate at the last World Cup. Everybody thought he did great reaching the semis. I've said this on a show before. I thought at that World Cup, every time we played a decent team, we got beat. We got beat by Belgium in the groups. We got beat by Belgium in the third place playoff game. We got beat by Croatia in the semi-final. And the teams that we beat, most of those games you would expect England to win. I don't think England covered themselves in glory at that World Cup. But when you reach the semi, the mere fact that you reach the semi, the euphoria goes around the nation, doesn't it? But they lost three games. If you think about it, they had 3 group games. Then they beat Colombia on pens. They beat Sweden. And they lost to Croatia, and they lost the third place player. They had 7 games at that World Cup and lost 3 of them. It's astonishing how people looked upon it, that it was a successful tournament because they reached the semi. I mean, come on, they had Panama and Tunisia in the groups, and then they only beat Colombia on pens. So I wasn't happy with that World Cup in any way, shape or form. I really wasn't. So I wasn't expecting great things. It did surprise me. I thought they did very well, England. But he still made a major error, a couple of major errors, really. Like I say, I can't speak now about the whole of the Euros. I had a lot to say during it. I'm sorry I didn't come back on and start doing 1 or 2 bits and pieces. But one of the things I did say, and this was before the ball was kicked, when the squad was named, I thought we were top-heavy with wide attacking players, far too top-heavy with wide attacking players, and a little bit light for midfield players. James Ward-Prowse was in the original squad and was one of the players that was left out. But when you look at the wide attacking players, we had 6 wide attacking players. Now, they don't tend to use the term wingers these days, but the wide attacking players still have the job of tracking the full-backs. So whether you like it or not, a wide attacking player is still playing on the wing. If you don't want to call him a winger, that's fine. But a wide attacking player is playing on the wing, just like we often use Mason Greenwood and Marcus Rashford. I'm talking about United now. Often use Mason Greenwood and Marcus Rashford as our wide attacking players. I think they were brought up as strikers, those 2 players, and that's why they like to cut in and shoot quite a lot from the flanks. They're actually strikers rather than wingers, but they are still given the job of tracking the fullback. So you're playing in that position. You are wide in the field a lot of the time, and particularly when they get the ball, which is equally as important as when we've got the ball. Their job is to track those fullbacks and to stop those fullbacks overloading onto our fullbacks. So whether you want to call them wingers or not, they are playing in the wing position. So England's wide attacking players in that tournament. Obviously, they had Kane at number 9 throughout the tournament, but there was always 2 players, either side of him. And they started the tournament with Sterling as one wide player and Foden as the other wide player. Obviously, Sterling played, I think he played every game in the end. I'm sure he did, obviously. Foden played the first 2 games. Saka got at least 1 start, as I remember. Grealish got 1 start, exactly 1 start. And Sancho got 1 start. So 5 players, wide players, got a start. Now, surely that's enough. In my opinion, it's more than enough. 4 wingers or 4 wide attacking players would normally be the maximum amount of wide attacking players or wingers that you would have in a squad for a World Cup or a European Championship. But we had 6. Not only did we have the 5 that all started a game, but we also had Marcus Rashford. What was the point of Marcus going in that squad? He needed an operation, which he's now had, by the way, and he's going to miss 2 months of the season. If they thought they were going to use him more, I could understand that. Anybody who's watched a lot of my shows before will know that I'm not a massive fan of Marcus Rashford. Wouldn't necessarily be in my, well, he wouldn't be in my team. He wouldn't be in my squad, purely and simply because I don't think he's good enough in comparison to the other players that he's got available to choose from. So he would not be in my squad anyway. But that's my opinion. But surely it's true that you shouldn't have 6 wide attacking players. Whoever that 6th one is, who doesn't get a start, and all the other 5 have had starts, what's the point of that 6th player? What is the point of that 6th winger when 5 have had starts and 1 hasn't had a start? But, where does that leave him? It almost makes me think that Southgate sees him like I see him. And at the same time, You could say, well, he's been carrying injuries. If he's carrying injury, what's the point of having him there if you're not thinking that you're going to use him? What is the point of having him there if you're not going to use him? Especially when you've got other 5 wide attacking players with the quality of Sterling and Foden and Saka and Grealish, who City have now signed for £100 million, by the way. And obviously our player that we've signed, Sancho, for £70 million. What was the point of having Marcus Rashford there in that squad when he needed an operation as well? Now, it gets worse. Having not used him hardly at all, he came on as a sub 4 times. He didn't come on as a sub when we needed goals, by the way. He only came on as a sub when games were really put to bed. I mean, he came on against Scotland at 0-0, but 0-0 was okay for us in that game. England, you qualified through, you're virtually guaranteed to qualify through your groups with 4 points. And in a 0-0 draw against Scotland, that took us to 4 points. That was the only game where Rashford came on where you might think you needed a goal, but it wasn't really vital that they scored a goal. When they did need goals, they were desperate for goals against Germany, they were desperate for goals against Denmark, and he didn't bring him on in those games. He brought Grealish on in those games, and it did the trick, by the way. Particularly against Germany, Grealish was brilliant when he came on against Germany. His link-up play with Luke Shaw, by the way, was something to behold. Luke Shaw had a great tournament. So then, having not used him, or used him extremely sparingly, just bringing him on in games that we were already leading in, and the Scotland game where a point was good enough anyway. He didn't bring him on when it really mattered against Germany and against Denmark. He then brings him on with a minute to play in the final. Absolutely astonishing. A minute to play in, or 2 minutes to play in the final. He wasn't brought on with the idea of us trying to nick a goal. It's not enough time. And secondly, did you see where he played when he brought him on? He took Kyle Walker off and he actually played at right back. Marcus Rashford at right back. I could not believe my eyes. There was one incident where the ball went out for a throw-in, even though there was only a couple of minutes to play when he came on, near our corner flag. And the way I saw it, it looked like Marcus didn't realise it was his job to take. Obviously, he's not used to taking throw-ins near our own corner flag. And he sort of moved up the field. And the way I remember it, John Stones had to shout him back and say, "You've got to take this throw-in." So he just didn't get, I'm not criticising him. You wouldn't expect him to get the role to understand what he's got to do. Having said that, really speaking, no matter what position you play on the field, if you're actually told to go and play right back, you should understand that you've got to take the throw-ins in your own half on that right-hand side. It's pretty straightforward and pretty obvious. But he did start to go up the field, and John Stones had to shout him back in time to take the throw-in. So to bring him on at right full-back, it was obvious that he'd only brought him on to take a penalty. And how did that go? He also brought Sancho on to take a penalty. I've got to say something about this penalty shootout. This is where Southgate really let himself down, in my opinion. And I'm not saying this in hindsight. I'm really not. Just getting back to the squad, by the way, I don't think they were strong enough. I don't mean on the field, but in general with the amount of players they had. I think Ward-Prowse should have been kept in that squad in place of Rashford. They needed an extra midfield player, and they had a winger too many, at least one winger too many. I think James Ward-Prowse should have been in it. Marcus Rashford shouldn't have been in it. And then he brings him on, obviously for the penalty, to take a penalty, and the rest is history. And to bring Sancho on to take a penalty, I don't know if this is true. I'm pretty sure it is. I've read it in enough places. I believe Sancho's never taken a penalty in his professional career. Why would you bring a player on with a minute to go in a Euro final to bring a penalty to take a penalty when he's never ever previously taken a penalty as a professional footballer? Absolutely astonishing to me. And my last thing on it, I believe that in penalty shootouts, sometimes the players who you least expect to take a great penalty, take a great penalty. To name a few from United's game in Gdansk, I think Lindelof took a great penalty. if my mind's not playing tricks, I think Axel Tuanzebe took a great penalty. I think Dan James I'm a big fan of Dan James. Dan James took a great penalty. Players who quite a lot of people might think, oh, this ain't going to be good, took fantastic penalties. And you often see that. Players who you might think are not going to take it, even in that final, like Euro final. Harry Maguire took a great penalty. So sometimes it's the people who you don't expect to take a great penalty. And then conversely, sometimes the players who you think are nailed on to score don't score. Taking a penalty in professional football really is a lottery. And the two players who went off, Jordan Henderson and Kyle Walker, extremely experienced players. And I know Henderson's missed a few penalties, and I know he's missed one or two at least anyway. If we were to have a penalty shootout tomorrow, and on one side you've got Henderson and Walker, and the other side you've got Sancho and Rashford, and let's say all four players took 3 penalties each, so there's 6 penalties there for each team. I wouldn't be having my house on Rashford and Sancho to score more penalties than Henderson and Walker. I really wouldn't. I really, really wouldn't. So what he's thinking of doing that, I don't know, and it backfired on him in a massive way. We'll never know now. If he hadn't made those changes, maybe Walker and Henderson, it wouldn't have even come round to them. It might have been other players on the field taking the pens. But like I say, we'll never know. But it certainly didn't help bringing on Rashford and Sancho with a minute or so to play in a European final. Cold, just hardly having a kick of the ball, and then having to take an extremely important penalty. Properly backfired on him, and it was a big mistake. Anyway, I'm back now, and it is back. United v Leeds at 12:30 today. Can't wait for it. Really looking forward to it. I am going to the game. Back in, was it April, during the Glazer protests, I was interviewed by Flex outside Old Trafford. And quite a poignant moment during that interview where I looked up at the stand and said, because a lot of people were saying, do not go to the ground, don't buy tickets, because obviously the more money you spend, obviously I don't buy paraphernalia, I don't buy stuff inside the ground, I don't buy, I might buy a couple of pints, if I'm honest. I shouldn't have said that. I might have a pint at half time and sometimes a couple of pints after the game. But I certainly don't buy stuff from a souvenir shop where people spend quite a lot of money on merchandise and things like that. But I did say at the time that if there's enough people prepared not to go in, that I won't go in. I'd be quite happy. I really enjoyed watching the football on the TV, by the way, during the lockdown. I thought it was not just United games as well. I thought it was fantastic the way they put virtually every game live on the TV, every Premier League game. And I watched a hell of a lot of football. I enjoyed it. I'd be quite happy watching the games on the TV. I really would. But I do like the atmosphere at the ground. I do like meeting people, seeing my mates at the game and all that. I do enjoy all that. But I was quite prepared to forego that. And I did say at the time, as much as I'm prepared to do that, there's no point in doing that if I'm the only person doing it, even if there's only a few people doing it. The old 76,000. If there's going to be 75,800 people in there and I'm one of the 200 that isn't in there, what difference does it make? It doesn't make a penny's worth of difference. So I am going to go to the game. It's a complete sellout. What's the point of me sticking by me guns and saying, I said I'm not going to go, so I'm not going to go? I want to go to the game. I love watching Manchester United. I love Manchester United Football Club. I can't change that. If United were struggling with ticket sales for this game, if they'd only sold 50 or 60,000 tickets, then I wouldn't go to the game, and I would agree, and I would stick by my guns. But me not going just means somebody else will be sat there, and the stadium will be packed to the rafters today. And it's understandable as well. People, what people have been through the lockdown. Obviously, people can't wait to get back to a bit of normality. So it should be a great day. I'm sorry about the Glazer. I really am sorry about the Glazer movement. I don't know where they can go with it, but I don't think it's ever going to work. Asking people not to actually go to the match. To the match itself. Vital that we win this first game. We have got to start winning games. People have asked me where we're going to finish. I've spoken about this on the United stand already, how we're going to do this season. And I said on there that we really, really have. I prefer even as a fan. It's not really that important for the fans, but it's so important for the players and the staff. They've got to take it game by game. It's okay on the one hand saying, I think we can aim for this and I think we can aim for that. The whole of their interest at the moment should be based on beating Leeds today and getting the first 3 points on the board. We cannot afford to slip behind the likes of City. Probably Liverpool will be strong again, as much as they had a really poor middle of the season last season. They did come strong again. I think Liverpool will be up there. And obviously Chelsea, the job Tuchel's done there, taking over when they weren't even looking like getting Champions League football. They smashed it into the top 4. They got to 2 cup finals. Okay, they got beaten in the FA Cup final, won the Champions League. What would you give? What would you give to win the Champions League? And Tuchel's done all that. Reached the cup final, won the Champions League, absolutely roared into the top 4 from about 9th or 10th, wherever they were when he took over. So I think Chelsea might be knocking on the door. They'll certainly be around the top 4 throughout the season. So you cannot afford to fall behind those 3 teams, I don't think, or too far behind them. If we're going to make a challenge, we've got to be right up there, right from day one. Day one is today, and all he needs to be speaking like that to the players. Day one is today. We need to win today. We need 3 points on the board. Don't think about Southampton next week. Don't think about where we want to be by Christmas. Don't think about where we want to be at the end of the season. Tunnel vision. 3 points today against Leeds is vital. Get that done, then start thinking about the next match. Got to get those 3 points. How will he go with it today? I think he's going to go. I've got a team written out here. I think he'll go De Gea. I think he'll go Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire, and Shaw. I'm hoping this. They did play well against Everton. Plus, they've had game time. McTominay's not had much game time. I don't think he's kicked a ball in midfield. He came on as a centre-back, McTominay. Obviously, Fred only got a little bit of game time. Matic has had the most game time and has been playing well. Van der Beek started the game last week and played well. I think he is going to go with Van der Beek and Matic today. I'm sticking my neck out there. Some people still saying it'll be McTominay and Fred. Bruno will start at 10. And I think his front 3... I'm not 100% convinced on the left, but I think it's going to be Greenwood on the right. Obviously, Cavani's not there. I think it's going to be Martial through the middle. On the left, again, obviously, Rashford's not there. I actually think, I want it to be Dan James. I think we need to start playing with proper wingers. I've just spoken about all the wide players in the England squad. Dan James is a proper winger. He's a workhorse. He's up and down. He stops that full back. And he's also two-footed. It doesn't matter which flank you're playing on. If he's on the left, he gets the ball across with his left. If he's on the right, he tries to put the ball across with his right. Dan James gets too much stick. I would go with Dan James. And I think he might go with Dan James in as much that James has had so much game time. He's fit and he's raring to go, and he's been playing in the, in the friendlies, the last couple of friendlies. Pogba is a possibility for the left. I've not mentioned Pogba as a central midfield player. We often don't use him as a central midfield player. What he's thinking about with Pogba, it'll be fascinating today, by the way, if Van der Beek and Matic do play there, because normally McTominay and Fred keep Pogba out of his favoured position. His favoured position is one of those central players. So if it is Van der Beek and Matic today, so he's still not getting in the lineup today. Don't get me wrong, he's not had a lot of game time himself. He only come on in, I think he came on at half time or early in the second half against Everton. I think Van der Beek and Matic might play today, so that's another 2 players that Pogba's competing with for that central role. Let's see if that happens. But we did shoehorn him into the team, as they call it, playing on the left wing. He's not really a left winger. Again, I've already said this on this show. I'm not a massive fan of Marcus Rashford. I do think we are better with Pogba on the left than Marcus Rashford, so there is an upgrade there. But at the same time, Dan James, he's got the game time in his legs, and he's an underrated player in my opinion. And I actually think he might start. I'm going to have a stab. Just to recap, I think this will be Ollie's starting lineup today. De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof. Obviously, Varane's not gone through yet. I don't know what's going on with that transfer. Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw. I think it's going to be Van der Beek and Matic. I think it's going to be Bruno at 10, and it's going to be Greenwood, Martial, and Dan James. Sancho, I think he's going to start on the bench. It often happens. It's his first game. He might start. He could start him. If he does start him on the right, I hope that doesn't mean Greenwood takes Martial's place. And I hope it doesn't mean he takes Dan James or Pogba's place on the left. We rarely see Greenwood playing on the left anyway. I wouldn't expect that to happen. I wouldn't be against it being Sancho, Martial and Dan James. I really wouldn't. Where will we finish this season? Everybody knows I don't like making predictions for matches, let alone a whole season. I've already spoken about the teams that we don't want to fall behind. City are obviously going to be there. Pretty certain Liverpool will be strong again. They're going to be up there. And then Chelsea, massive signing. I think United should be embarrassed about that signing, by the way. We lost money on Lukaku. We signed him for about 90 million, did we? I think we sold him for about 70 million or just over 70 million. I said at the time that we shouldn't be selling Lukaku. We should be working on. People were saying he's not fit enough. He's put weight on. I didn't see that. I saw a player who could score goals. He scored goals everywhere he goes. He had a bit of a slack season that season. You do rely on your teammates, though. You've got to have service. He got 27 for us in all comps in his first season. He got 17, I think it was, in his second season. These days, we're happy with a player getting 17. With Lukaku, it was a poor season. So, it's the way they look at different players. So, Lukaku's obviously gone to Inter Milan for about 70 million, scored in the high 20s, I think, in his first season and over 30 last season, won the Serie A title, and now Chelsea have signed him. Tuchel sees him. I heard Tuchel saying that a lot of United fans says Lukaku's touch wasn't good enough. Thomas Tuchel, who's won the Champions League, by the way, he's saying how much they need a player who they can hit with the ball, who's good with his back to goal. So I think Tuchel doesn't underestimate Lukaku and doesn't think that his touch lets him down too often. It's going to let him down occasionally. He's a big lad. He can score goals. He's strong. He's fast. I think he'll score a lot of goals for Chelsea, but you do need to gel. I've said this before. You just never know. The team has got to gel well. The players that they've already got there are going to get less game time. Ziyech and Werner, Pulisic. The way they interlink with each other, it could just spoil a little bit of the flow of the way Chelsea play. So there's no guarantees that it will gel. But you would think that with Lukaku up there, if they make the chances, I think you would expect Lukaku to take those chances and could end up challenging for the top scorer award in the Premier League this season. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he ended up top scorer in the Premier League. So getting back to where will we finish? I think Chelsea are going to be in the top 4. I think Liverpool are going to be in the top 4. I think Man City are going to be in the top 4. I'm more confident of all three of those teams being in the top 4 rather than us. I really am. The way I see it, it leaves one spot for us to battle for. I do think we will get it. As a challenger to us for that top 4 spot, I don't think Leicester are going to go away. They've made a couple of shrewd signings. And they've acted very quickly, by the way. Fofana got injured, a serious injury in the Charity Shield, which they won last season. Just a quick one, by the way, the way we look at, no disrespect to Leicester, but we're Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in the world, certainly one of the biggest 3 or 4 clubs in the world, without any shadow of a doubt. And Leicester City have now won the Premier League since we last won it. They've won the FA Cup since we last won it. They've now won the Charity Shield since we've last won it. We need to start getting some trophies on the board. That in itself, to me, I think is a little bit embarrassing. And I know they've slipped out of the top 4 race late on in each of the last 2 seasons. They might mount a sterner challenge this season. As I said, he made a couple of shrewd signings. Fofana, he got injured last week. It looks like Vestergaard from Southampton, who are rated, by the way, I think he's a good player. It looks like Vestergaard's going to sign for Leicester. And also, from what I've only seen him a couple of times, but I have seen this Samari from Lille. looks a solid unit, looks a good player. I think that is going to prove to be an excellent piece of business. £17 million for Soumare to Leicester. He does seem to get these shrewd bits of business over the line. So I think Leicester will not be going away. I don't think they'll disappear too soon anyway. Towards the end of the season, they could easily be pushing for a top 4 spot. It has started already. Brentford 2, Arsenal 0 last night. I couldn't believe that result. Well, I say I couldn't believe it. I could believe it. What's happened at Arsenal Football Club, I really don't know. Well, I think Brentford might be a good tip to actually stay up out of the 3 that have come up. I really do. I was saying that to some mates only the other day, and then lo and behold, they beat Arsenal 2-0 on the opening night, Friday night. So Arsenal again, I don't see them as a threat. I don't think they're nothing like the team, or really the club's just collapsed really over the last couple of years. Some people might like me saying that. I'm not anti-Arsenal. I'm really not. But what's happening there, I don't know. It's beyond me. Other games this weekend. Chelsea are playing Palace. I fancy Chelsea to beat them. Liverpool are at Norwich. I fancy Liverpool to win that one. And the trickiest one for the 3 clubs that I fancy getting in the top 4, the trickiest one is City away at Spurs. As I've already said, we've got to beat Leeds. I fancy Chelsea to win. I fancy Liverpool to win. You would expect City to win at Spurs, although it could be a bit tricky. Nuno from Wolves has taken. Nuno Espirito Santos has taken over there left the Wolves job and taken over at Spurs. New manager syndrome. Spurs might be on fire tomorrow. You never know. It would be a shock result if Spurs managed to beat them or even drew with them, really. But if those three teams win those 3 games and we don't beat Leeds, we might never catch up all season. That is how I see it. That's how Ollie needs to be speaking to the players. If we don't win this game today, that might mean that we never catch the teams above us right from day one. It could so easily happen. We have to win this game. Stop thinking about later games. Stop thinking about where we could finish at the end of the season. I know it's a cliche, but really, really and truly take it game by game. Put all your eggs in one basket for winning this game today. No point dropping points in this game and then working out to try and win next week's game and thinking, well, we recovered. You haven't recovered. If you lose points today, you cannot recover them. So we need to get these points. I hope you've enjoyed that show. That's my first show back. I'm going to do my utmost now to do at least one show in between United. What I'll probably do is each time United play, I'll do a show where I talk about the game that's just gone by. Obviously, a little bit about how the season's shaping up for the different teams and what it's like at the top of the table. And I'll also, at the same time, preview United's following game, whenever that might be. So after today's game, let's hope we get these 3 points. Next week, it's Southampton away next week. Sorry, and I think I might have just said Wolves before, but it's Southampton away and it's Wolves away the week after that. No midweek games, by the way. That's astonished me, that. Usually at the beginning of the season, you've got a midweek game slotted in somewhere, either in the first week or the second week. And with it being a World Cup, like next season, the season is going to be decimated. It's going to be cut in half with the World Cup taking place in November and December. I think it takes place, doesn't it? It's over in the Middle East, isn't it? It's red hot, absolutely red hot over there. So they've had to change it from a summer World Cup to a winter World Cup. It's going to take place during the season. So next season, the season's going to start a little bit early. And we're starting a little bit early. I would have thought that I'd have a knock-on effect and want them to try and finish this season as early as possible. So I would have thought they've been trying to get games in at the beginning. I'm surprised we haven't got a midweek game both this coming week and the week after. So, come to the first international break, there could be 5 league games for every club on the board. And the way it's going to be, there's only going to be 3 league games on the board. So there's no midweek game. Like I say, Leeds today, it's Southampton away next week and Wolves away the week after that. So I will do at least one show in between those games where I will review the previous game and obviously preview the game that's coming up. So, like I always used to say, it's that long since I said it, I've forgot what I used to say now. But yeah, that was it. If you've enjoyed that show, please tell all your friends. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.